Hey guys, Brandon here. I'd like to start off by doing some Kingdom Hearts analysis videos. I like to really break down people's personalities and really look into who they are and what they're all about and why they do what they do. And I think the perfect person to really start with is Larxene. Larxene is a very, well, for me, she's a very predictable character. She seems to be very kind of straightforward. She knows what she's doing, and but she doesn't really seem to know herself very much, and that's something I'd like to kind of look in here. Before we begin, if you like what you see and if you'd like to see more of these, feel free to give a like and hit the subscribe button and share, and even make a comment. Let me know what you think I did well and what you think I should really work on. And so without further ado, let's look into Larxene. Larxene is about as straightforward as you can get. She has a lot of issues with herself and with other people. She doesn't really seem to have very many friends, and we find out in Union Cross that really the only reason why she is even in the organization to begin with is because Marluxia's there, and it seems like she has the hots for Marluxia. Now, whether Marluxia is gay or whether it's just that he's just not interested, I'm not going to cover it. Clearly, it's one of those two things. We don't really have enough information, in my opinion, to really pinpoint which one it is. But the point is, she's not picking up that he doesn't really have an interest in her. So, but she sticks around, and that's something I find to be very peculiar. Something else about Larxene that I really would like to point out is that, unlike most of the other organization members, she seems to have a lot of self-esteem issues. You can look at some of the scenes just throughout the game, especially in Chain of Memories and 3 when she makes most of her screen time. She is very, very self-conscious. All you have to do to really get her off her game is to be confident and not let anything she says bother you. Especially when Demyx shows up in 3 and starts making all these comments like, well, I don't have to be smart. Her reaction to this comment that Demyx makes is extremely eye-opening. Let's watch it here.
You up for another coup?
Oh, please. You couldn't do it last time. You gotta play it smart, like me.
What? You're not smart?
Well, you heard what Marley said. I don't have to be smart.
So, right here, it's pretty clear that Demyx is the confident person between him and Larxene. Demyx is confident, Larxene is very unsure of herself, she's very self-conscious, and the second he says something that's very confident, she gets really nervous and she's very off her game. And the second she feels like he's in a position of power, this is what she has to say.
Or capable, or likable, or attractive. A cereal bowl would make a better vessel.
This is a very big weakness of Larxene's. She really shows her self-conscious side by allowing what Demyx says really get inside her head. That's something that really gives points to Demyx, and it really takes away from Larxene. If I was in Larxene's position, the best thing that I would want to do is either admit defeat, in this case, not care about whatever Demyx has to say, or just accept that he ousted you. And she does neither of those things here. Larxene really reminds me of that preppy girl that you might have met in high school. That girl, the stereotypical girl that thinks she's better than everybody else, that for whatever reason is the most popular girl in high school, and that that just feels like she has to bring everybody else down so that she can feel better about herself. Now, what's interesting about that stereotypical girl is that she doesn't usually have a lot of self-esteem. And this is evident and how she takes it on other people. Usually somebody who tries to make everybody else feel like complete idiots and like they're completely worthless, usually it's the result of how they feel about themselves. They don't feel very good about themselves. If you have problems with listening, you're going to accuse everybody else of not listening to you. And if you have self-esteem issues, you're going to make everybody else feel like complete idiots. It's just how things work, and it seems to be a very common issue among all these people. There's a lot of cognitive dissonance going on here. And cognitive dissonance is basically when you act one way and you think a different way. It'd be saying, I want to stop smoking, while you're holding a cigarette and smoking. Cognitive dissonance because your actions and your words aren't lining up. The Larkscene has that problem a lot. The stereotypical high school girl that everybody seems to loathe, typically because of her personality and bringing everybody else down, you don't usually see that in the movies as she's the main villain. She's usually just this big nuisance that you have to watch yourself go through. In this case, she's actually one of the bad guys, which is kind of an interesting twist on this kind of person with this personality. She's not just, I mean, she still is a nuisance for sure, but she's all of a sudden relevant to the overall list of villains. And that makes her even more interesting. This part doesn't get shown on screen when in 358 over 2 days, the movie. But when you go through Roxas' story on the playable game on the Nintendo DS, you get to see her briefly teaching Roxas how to use magic. And in that scene, it shows another one of Larxene's weaknesses. And it seems that she's very impatient. And when she's trying to teach Roxas how to use magic, after a few attempts, and it's like it's not going as fast as she would like it to go, and so finally she just says, you know what, I don't care, just use your Keyblade and beat the crap out of those things and let's get the heck out of here. I'm sick and tired of waiting. If she's on her own time, I'm sure whatever, but when she's on somebody else's time, it's like, or when somebody else is making her wait when she's on her own time, it's like all of a sudden, like, she's the most important person in the room. And we can talk about all of the recurring parts of her personality that show up again and again throughout Chain of Memories and throughout 3. I mean, she shows up in the Frozen World and she's just being herself. She acknowledges a few things here and there, what her forte is, and there's just a lot of repeats. She's really annoying. She keeps to herself of being very critical towards other people and very condescending towards Sora and the gang. And you really don't see this weakness side of her until she's around other members of the organization. I think the biggest thing I'd like to finish about Larxene is really get a lot of this new information about her personality in this scene with Demyx, with Luxord, with Marluxia, and then eventually with Xemnas. She really starts to show a lot of her vulnerabilities, especially like how she cares about things that really just don't matter.
Why haven't you gone to any worlds? Are you slacking?
Like, it's clear in this scene right here that Demyx is clearly trolling. He clearly has no interest in having a civil conversation with her, and she just doesn't catch on that he's completely trolling with her. And it's like really getting inside her head. It's at this point he's literally beating her at her own game, and she hates it. It just kills her. It really just eats her on the inside. And this comment here, first of all, why do you care? What do you mean, why haven't you gone to any worlds? That has nothing to do with you. Why are you so interested in what Demyx has to do? You call him an idiot, and you say it's hilarious that a replica stole your spot. And then all of a sudden, you're suddenly invested in what his itinerary is. That just makes zero sense. You're clearly in denial about how you think about him. You clearly think he's better than you, and yet you act like you think he's not. You clearly are self-conscious and you're not realizing that you just don't have to worry about this. Just be yourself and you won't have to measure up to other people. That's just not how it works. And what's it to you if he is slacking? You obviously have something to prove. You want to believe that you're better than him. Well, if he is slacking, who cares? Who honestly cares? You think you're better than him. You act like you're better than him, but you clearly think you're not. I mean, this whole thing is just a complete mess. It's this whole measuring contest between you and the world, and you just, because you're playing the game, you automatically fail at life. I don't believe in playing that game with anybody because it's just a waste of your time. You try to go through life being top dog, you're just gonna live your life as the saddest, most miserable person on earth. And really, Larxene is a really good example of failing at trying to be top dog. You can never truly be top dog. There's always going to be somebody else that's bigger and badder than you are. There's nothing you can do about it. So why even play the game? Why not just be yourself and move forward and not let the little things get to you? Larkscene just never seems to figure that out.
Ugh, Xemnas.
Now this is an area that I give her a lot of points to because I consider this her being true to herself when she says, ugh, Xemnas. Clearly she didn't feel like she needed to be afraid of him anymore. She clearly thinks he's a nut job. She clearly doesn't like him. And when he shows up, she wasn't afraid to state her opinion on it. I never heard anything about that in the original organization. You hear it here, and I wonder if it's because she thinks Xemnas is no longer in charge, so she can treat him how she would treat him if he was more of an equal. Whereas in the previous organization, she considered him the leader, and perhaps she was afraid of being wiped out or obliterated if she spoke up to him the way she honestly felt. And in this case, it's just like she's not afraid to actually tell him how she really feels. So I really give her points there for being true to herself, even though she's being a complete idiot. She's still being true to herself, and she doesn't hide how she really feels around him, at least. To be honest, it's commendable.
You four are going to reveal your greatest secret, the ancient Keyblade legacy that slumbers within you. Huh? Hmm?
Lastly, this scene here when he says you're going to reveal your secret Keyblade legacy, her face is just like, what? It's not like a how did you know kind of face. Like, I think Luxord's face is more of a how did you know? But I think her face is just like she's really caught off guard. It makes you wonder if she actually even remembers that part of her life. We know through Union Cross that Elrena and Lauriam were Keyblade Masters that had some relevance and importance to the main overall plot. So we know she was there, and now the question remains, does she know she was there? And this scene almost kind of alludes to the fact that maybe she doesn't actually remember. Maybe she doesn't actually know. We know that Ventus probably doesn't remember. Ericus kind of comes out and says that, and maybe Elrena Larxene doesn't know either.
Are you kidding?
You're gonna be recompleted.
I didn't ask you for your garbage opinion. I lost to a bunch of losers like you. But could be worse. Become that geezer's heart tank? No thanks.
Then why help him?
I was really just along for the ride.
With...
My secret.
At this point, when she's fighting Sora, it's pretty clear to me that she's not going to admit that she has some problems, that she has a lot of cognitive dissonance. And so, like, instead of admitting defeat, she kind of just says, it could be worse. And instead of telling Sora, I think you're worthy of this information, she just keeps it to herself and then says some lie or scripted answer. And it doesn't really come out and say what she was really after. But we all know that she was only in it because of Lauriam or Marluxia. She had no other reason to be there, and she just went along for the ride. So I guess it was half-truth, but what's the point of keeping it from Sora? It's not like he's going to do anything worse for you. I think the biggest weakness about Larxene, at the end of the day, she didn't even thank him for helping her. Because while Luxord kind of gave off a thank you for helping me, like, feel again, and even Xemnas, of all people, Xemnas said thank you. Larxene just didn't. She just felt extremely betrayed that of all people to send her back to be recompleted, it had to be Sora. It's just like, do you know what you want? You clearly want to be recompleted, and then all of a sudden when Sora tries to recomplete you, you get mad. Just from my perspective, you know, I can read these actions like a book, and it's what makes her so predictable. If she was a real person, she would not be able to utilize her agenda on me, but I wouldn't be surprised if she'd be very successful utilizing her agenda on a lot of people, just because this kind of stuff can be very hard to read. So at the end of the day, Larxene is a very incomplete person. We don't know everything there is to know about her, obviously. There's still more to uncover, but we have a pretty good idea of her personality, even in the Union Cross, when we start to think that she's nice, Cherith kind of breaks the ice, basically breaks the fourth wall and says that she is the person that we actually know her to be, and that she's not just putting on a face, or that she didn't just randomly turn dark when she became a nobody, that she's kind of always been like this, and that she was only acting nice because of Lorian. And so that was kind of good information for us to see, but we have a pretty good idea of who she is, and so I think I can safely say that she's just that person that wants to bring everybody else down because she doesn't feel good about herself, and she doesn't really know what she wants out of life. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. If you want to see more, feel free to give a like and make a comment or two, and let us know exactly how you felt or what you like or didn't like about the video, and then hit the subscribe button. And thank you so much, and you guys have a good one.